A moment ago, we were talking about all the people that would be potentially inside this courtroom, potential witnesses, all the names. And I said that it sounded like the finale of Seinfeld with all the bit players coming back. I read that a little bit earlier in the New York Times. I thought it was pretty funny. Let me read you some of the names that are on that Judge Merchan is asking the jurors if they've ever heard anything about. Donald Trump, obviously, Michael Cohen, Kellyanne Conway, Robert Costello, Stormy Daniels, Alan Garten, Rudy Giuliani, Rona Graff, Hope Hicks, Dylan Howard, Jared Kushner, Jeff Conway, David Pecker, Keith Schiller, Deborah Tarasoff, Don Jr., Ivanka, Eric, Alan Weisselberg, Madeline Westerhout, Johnny McEntee, Reince Priebus, Dan Scavino, Keith Schiller, Jared Kushner, Melania Trump. That's not even the full list. I can tell you I've been covering Donald Trump for almost 10 years now. I got 98% of those, and there are still some names that I don't recognize. Andrew Weissmann, you're joining us. You have fresh eyes on this, fresh ears about what we've been talking about. This witness list, I think, is pretty all-encompassing and pretty interesting. What should we expect if Hope Hicks gets on the stand? What should we expect if Alan Weisselberg, who's, I believe, in prison right now, gets on the stand? Or Dan Scavino, Donald Trump's social media manager and very close ally within his campaign. Should we expect any of them to give testimony that might damage the president?
So two things. One, just because their name is on a list that is read by the judge to the prospective jurors does not mean in any way that they are all going to be witnesses. When you give a list like this to the prospective jurors, what you're trying to find out is, do you know any of these people? Because their names may come up during the trial, but not necessarily because they will be a witness. So it's really important to remember that, because what we're trying to find out is, does anyone who's a prospective juror have sort of a personal relationship, know these people, have any preconceived views of these people? So you have to sort of remember that it is an all-encompassing list, because these are all of the names that both sides think could come up. Now, to your question, it is possible that within that huge group, there will be a subset that would testify. I don't think Alan Weisselberg is likely to.
They're not going to bring him out from Rikers?
I'm going to fight the hypothetical on that. But I do think that when you have internal people to the Trump campaign, internal people to the Trump organization, there are a number of ways that could be relevant. One, it can be relevant to the paperwork. Remember, this crime is about false business records. So exactly how they're false, who had them, how were they created, how did they know what to write on the pieces of paper is going to be really important for the prosecution to prove. So those sort of internal witnesses whose names are not terribly known or for any good reason could become quite important in terms of establishing those particular facts.
And let's just remember that on the original document, the agreement for Stormy Daniels' story, the names they used, the aliases they used for Stormy Daniels were Peggy Peterson, and for Donald Trump, David Dennison. So there was definitely some agreement about how these people would be described among someone within the Trump organization, or Michael Cohen, and also with David Pecker.
All of that will become important as we start to see this case come together. But in that room right now, already Judge Merchan has said, please raise your hand if you don't know that you can be fair and impartial. And at least by this initial count, potential juror A211, 225, 349, and 3251 have all said that they cannot be. But as he's going through this 30 minutes with these folks, also telling them, by the way, we are going to try to keep to schedule. This is going to be 6 weeks long, which may make some people sit back and take notice. Talk about what goes on in a room like this, in a situation like this, very high profile case. And is it normal for the judge to talk for 30 minutes to every group of jurors?
In a high-profile case, this is standard at the state and federal level, where you have an exacting jury selection process. The thing that is most unusual about this case is that, unlike most New Yorkers, and I suspect most Americans who don't wake up and say, I can't wait to be on a jury, the problem here is you're worried on both sides about somebody sneaking on who really wants to be on this jury and isn't necessarily going to be candid in giving their answers, which is a violation of their oath. But that's the real problem in a high-profile case. When I've done them, that is the thing that, in the government side, you are looking for as hard as possible. Because remember, it only takes one juror to hang the jury, to have a judgment of
So
no
what do you
judgment.
look for to try to avoid that person?
So that's why there are all these questions. You know how you have like 40 questions asking what do you read and what do you know? You look for some inconsistencies where somebody may be giving answers that don't seem to square with each other, or they seem to be just a complete blank slate, where they seem to be sort of intentionally anodyne. And you want then the judge to push and explore some views and make sure if they haven't really said they read much of anything or listen to much of anything, that the judge sort of pushes them to say, so you just don't listen to anything? And so you try to get that. And that's where you use what's called a peremptory challenge, which both sides have this ability when they think that might be going on. But that is the real challenge for both sides in this case.
Well, they're moving quickly because per the pool inside the courtroom, because we have an overflow room, and then we have a few members of the press who are in the courtroom itself. More than half the prospective jurors in the first panel of 96 have been excused after saying they could not be fair or impartial. At least 50 were let go for that reason. Does that surprise you at all?
Not at all. So I've
Why
done
not,
cases with...
Why not, Andrew?
So it is, as I said, a lot of people just don't want to be on jury service, and then a lot of people don't want to be in jury service in a high-profile case.
And so that's an easy way to get out?
And what's unusual here is usually it's just saying you can't be fair and impartial. Usually there's some follow-up. But let's just be real. If somebody says they cannot be fair and impartial, a judge is not going to seat them. But usually it takes a little bit more. It's like, and sometimes a judge will embarrass somebody to say, tell me why not? Tell me, are you saying that you cannot judge somebody based on the facts and the laws I give it? But in this situation, when you have so many people are going to be saying that, and you have a time pressure, I understand why the judge is just saying, look, if you can't be fair and impartial, you're off. But even though it may seem fast on this part, this is the fast part. The people who say, I can't be fair and impartial, then there'll be a long process of interviewing the pool of truly potential jurors.
With the peremptory challenges and the other challenges. So what they're now doing is taking those left from the 50 who were dismissed and putting them in the jury box, and that will begin the series of questions. I just wanted to circle back to what we were talking about really all day here, which was the way Judge Merchan was handling the whole issue of the gag order and the fact that Donald Trump violated the gag order arguably again this weekend by going after Michael Cohen, calling him a liar, and then during the lunch break was posting about the prosecutor, about Bragg himself. So at this point, Judge Merchan is still saying that he's going to wait till next week to talk about this, to hear arguments about this, and not decide it. He had initially said this morning he was going to decide it during the lunch break and move from the bench. Why is he not showing more control over the case? Is he so worried about an appeal?
So a few things. One, certainly Michael Cohen is within the purview of the gag order because he's clearly a witness. Just remember, Bragg himself and the judge himself are not within the scope of that order. A lot of us have talked about sort of that aspect of it. But my understanding is the judge has initially said, I'm going to issue an order to show cause, and I want the sides to brief this issue and hear it on Wednesday. I think he's now moved that up till tomorrow. So he may be doing this quite quickly. But regardless of whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, one of the things that's required, and this may be upsetting to a lot of listeners, this is what due process requires. You can't just say, I'm sending you to jail for violating a gag order without giving...
Couldn't he fine them the $1,000? He's been warned.
He can, but you need to make a factual finding, and you want to give the defense an opportunity to be heard. So you'd want to hear from Todd Blanche or Susan Necheles, what is your explanation? What is your defense to this? It may seem very cut and dry, but they are entitled before something happens. Remember, I would imagine this will be if the judge finds a violation, this will be the moment before jail, meaning he can say this is the fine, and just so you know, that's it. This is the one bite at the apple. And so you want to make sure from a due process point of view, everyone has had an opportunity to be heard and to make their defenses. And that actually, for holding up on appeal, you really don't want to send somebody to jail or have a fine and then have an appellate court say, you know what, you should have given them more process.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.